Welcome everyone. This is the Nomava Theory. This is Nomava TV first. This is the Nomava Theory on how Thembu got born and got introduced into this world. The Thembu lineage, how it goes. This is theory number 1. There are many theories, but I will be sharing on this one the first theory on who the Thembu are. The first person in the Thembu nation is known as the person called Zwide. Now, a lot of theories I've seen, they all say the first person is Zwide. If you go to the lineages of other tribes outside of the Tambo people, they will all say Zwide. If you go to the Nomava Theory, they will say Zwide. If you go to the Kasibe Theory, they will say Zwide. So Zwide was the first person. He came from the Great Lakes of Africa. The Great Lakes there by Malawi, Kenya. So that's where Zwide came from. He went away from the lakes and started moving with his family. And then he gave birth to Sibiside. And then Sibiside, he gave birth to Njanya. Now Njanya is a very confusing figure, because in another book I read that Njanya gave birth to Malandela and Malandela. Malandela is the originator of the Xhosa nation, and Malandela is the originator of the Tambo nation. And also, another theory says Njanya gave birth to Mpondo and Mpondomise, and then Kasibe. So for the purposes of this theory, we're going to go with this. Njanya was born in 1307. He gave birth to Malandela. He gave birth to Malangela. He gave birth to Mpondo. He gave birth to Mpondomise, who were twins, and he gave birth to Kasibe, the last child. Now, we are going to focus on Malandela. Malandela gave birth to Thembu and Zwide. Now, Thembu is the original ancestor where the Thembu people come from. Now, other people say Thembu was in Lesotho. Other people say Thembu was in Dedesi. Other people say Thembu was in the Kalahari desert, living amongst the Kalahari people. But I do not know the truthness of this. But for the purposes of this theory, we're just going to go with Thembu was in Lesotho, because that's where this theory is centered. Thembu died in Lesotho. I do not know, we do not know the times of his death. Thembu gave birth to 2 sons. He gave birth to Ndilo of the Eastern Cape Tambo nation and Velase of the KwaZulu-Natal Tambo people. Now, these 2 people shaped the current modern-day Tambo nation. Now, Ndilo gave birth to Ndongakazi, also known as Dunakazi. And then he gave birth to Bomoi. Ndongakazi gave birth to Bomoi. Bomoi gave birth to Tsedume. Tsedume gave birth to Zima and Ndande. It is said that Bomoi, before we get to Ndande and Zima, it is said that Bomoi was living in Lesotho and that he claimed some land for the Tambo people in Lesotho. And he said he would not leave Lesotho until abafazi amantombi aseLesotho can banter for him. I don't know how to put it in English, but he wanted intombi zaseLesotho zimbhenzele. Now that request was fulfilled, and 15 ladies came and they bantered for Bomoi. And that's where the name Uvela Bambenzele comes from, the praise. Actually, this is not a name, it's a praise. There's a difference between Nombo and Mbali. Mbali is a story about the person, about the nation, about the tribe. And then Nombo, it's the genealogical lineage. Who gave birth to who gave birth to who gave birth to who. Now, on this video, we are talking about Nombo Wabathembu, but based on this theory of Lesotho. So, we said Ndunakazi gave birth to Pomoy. So, we started with Thembu gave birth to Ndilo and Velase, and then Ndilo is the one for the Eastern Cape Thembus. I am Xhosa. I am a Thembu from the Eastern Cape, so I do not know much about the Thembu nation in KwaZulu-Natal. So I'm going to speak about the people that I align with mostly. And Ndilo gave birth to Ndongakazi. Ndongakazi gave birth to Pomoy. Pomoy gave birth to Cetume, and then Cetume gave birth to Zima and Ndande. Now, Zima was the older son, but he was from a lesser house. And Ndande was from the greater house. He was the heir to the throne of Cetume. But Zima did not want to move from the throne, because the throne was given to him to be an interim chief while Ndande is still not of age to take the throne yet. When Ndande came of age, Zima did not want to leave the seat of the throne. So he wanted to take Ubukhosi for himself. And then what happened was Zima and Ndande engaged in a feud, until one day some Amatola from the Mbo clan, from the Mbo kingdom, came and they proclaimed that the only way to heal Ndande would be for them to heal Ndande. And it is said that the Thembu nation did not use spears at this time or any metal works at this time. It is the people from the Mbo clan who came with that knowledge. Our people did not know it. The Mbo people knew it. And that book even went to say the people from the Mbo clan are not playing anymore. They don't hit men with sticks, they stab a man. So that's how it came to be. And then what happened was there was some technology that happened. Zima was left with his men in a kraal, Planti, whereby he was sent there. He thought something was going to happen there, some ritual was going to happen there, and then it was suddenly attacked by the people who are called Amatola and Ndande, and they stabbed Zima's people and Zima, and that's how Ndando took the throne. Now, according to this theory, Ndando gave birth to these sons: Mguti, Mqiti, Maya, and Mcube. Now these were his sons, and from it, these sons is whereby the story really starts. We have shared on this channel the other video whereby we spoke with Baubokwe. Baubokwe says he knows about Nguti, who moved from Heshele into the modern day Thembu kingdom. Now we're about to start there. Who was Nguti and who are his people? Now there is also Mqiti. Mqiti, we know nothing about Mqiti. We only know that Mqiti was the brother of Nguti, because we hear about that from Baubokwe. Baubokwe says Mqiti was the brother of Nguti. But little knowledge is known about Amaqiti. There are claims that there are Qiti people who are living in Botswana, and that's where the Amaqiti nation comes from. There are Qiti people who are Abatwa, and that's where they are originated from. We do not know this. We still need to know it. We still need to find out. We still need to research. If you know it, please comment in the comment section and tell us who was Mqiti. What do you know about the Amaqiti clan? Because the Qitis, they say they come from Ndinga, but you find that from history, you do not know who even Ndinga is. I do not know who Ndinga is. Yet I am a Qiti person. I have been searching, but in all the books that I've searched from, I have not seen Qiti even mentioned. It's only whereby in a few sentences is mentioned somewhere there and somewhere there, but nothing tangible about who was Mqeti and who are the Amaqeti clan. Who did Mqeti give birth to? I recently learned, I've been calling myself Romo Madiba for this whole years of my life, and then last year I learned that no, you are Khadu, you are Nomsobondohana. Hey, you are Umlebe. And I was like, hey, the critics are these people. I did not know. So if you guys know, please tell us who are the Amaqeti and where do they come from. Going back to Nguti. Nguti gave birth to these sons. He gave birth to Sebeni, he gave birth to Ngeko, he gave birth to Ngongo, and he gave birth to a lady called Kazeka. Now, he took his people from Herschel, nearby Lesotho, but Herschel is in the Eastern Cape. He took them. It's the same Herschel that Lesotho is now today claiming that Herschel is their territory that was taken from them by South Africa, which kind of makes sense because now, if you remember, Thembu was in Lesotho, and now Nguti is coming from Herschel, and Herschel is filled with Sotho people. It's almost like a Sotho town. So that's why we say it makes sense for Lesotho to claim and say Herschel is our town. Actually, it's not South Africa's town, but South Africa claimed it as theirs. And even all theories, they say the Thembus emerged from Lesotho. Now Baupoko says Nguti emerged from Herschel, which, if we can say, was a Lesotho establishment, was a Lesotho town. So Nguti came from Herschel and he went to Eastern Cape. Now in the Eastern Cape, he dropped his sons, his children in places and places. He first dropped Ngongo at Mkutu, and then he dropped Sebeni at Sikubutwini, and he dropped Ngeko at Masana or Msana. These are all villages in the district of Dutwa and Ngobo. They intersect between Dutwa and Ngobo. I actually live near these villages. I know where these villages are, and I know the story. In my area, there's a story that there was a great war long ago that happened nearby Clarkbury. If you can go there by Lota Makobokeni or even Bolotwa and ask if there's such a story of a war that was so big that happened in the area somewhere there. Elders will tell you there was a war that happened here, around here, sometime long ago. Now Ngeko was left in Msana, and Ngongo in Mkutu, and Sebeni in Skubutwini. Kazeka did not have land, but she was a great fighter. I'm not sure about the story of Kazeka, who she was married off to, but she was known as she was a great fighter. She was great when it came to war. Then Nguti gave his throne to his son Ngeko. He gave Ingubo Kosi, I don't know how it's said in English, the blanket of the kingdom, the blanket of throneship. I don't know how it's said in English, but he gave Ingubo Kosi to Ngeko. Then Ngeko gave birth. No, he didn't. It's not like he gave the blanket and then Ngeko suddenly gave birth. No, Ngeko already had sons, but he was not placed as the chief at that time. It was still Nguti. Nguti was still going around. And at that time, what Nguti was doing is he was trying to assimilate Amabomvane into the Thembu kingdom. He wanted Amabomvane to form part of his kingdom. Now, what also happened was Amabomvane, they resisted, and then Baupoko says that Nguti called for an army to come and assist him. Now, this army came from the Mpondo people, because the Mpondo people is where his mother came from. Nguti's mother was a Mpondo girl. Nguti's mother was a Mpondo girl. So he called forth from his mother's people to come and assist him, because apparently now, if you can see, he's a prince in the Mpondo kingdom. And then what they did is they sent the Mpondo people, they sent a nation under them, which was Amaxesibe. And then Amaxesibe sent their men, they called forth Mchuchumbe, to come and assist Mkuti. Now those people, Mchuchumbe, they were known. I've read in the Kwati manuscript, there's a book about the Kwati people on the internet, where they come from. It also says the same thing as I'm saying now, that the Kwatis were very, very fierce people. They were very great in battle. They were very great in battle. Those people would live with wild animals. They lived by hunting wild animals, the wildest of animals. They didn't fear wild animals. Even their chief rode a cow, but this cow is said to be a sacred cow. It's actually it's a wildebeest, the wildebeest cow. It's called Isinqu in Xhosa. I don't know how Isinqu became Kwati. I don't know, maybe it was called Kwati in the longer days. Or maybe Kwati is referencing the Kwacha cow, the Kwacha zebra, or something like that. But in my knowledge, Mchuchumba was riding the wildebeest. Now the wildebeest is a cow that has very pointy horns and is very, very wild. So he was riding that cow, and that's where the name came from, that Ngamakwati Ababantu, because of that cow. But they were actually Amaxesibe by birth, but they were given the chance to go and show off their battle acumen in the fight against Amabomvane with Mkoti. And then they came to modern day Nkanduli, and they settled there for a while, and then they came closer until they reached I don't know what they reached. I think there's a place Manbao Boko mentioned, I just forgot about it now. They reached the modern day Thembu kingdom by the Mbashe River. So that's when Nqaiko was placed as heir to the throne. And now Nqaiko gave birth to three sons, Ndungwana, Hlanga, and Romo. Now, of these three sons was Ndungwana. Ndungwana was also ambitious. He assimilated the Amamfene people into the Thembu kingdom. He was sent by his father to welcome them and assist them with whatever they needed. He was supposed to meet them in a nearby forest or something like that. But he went there and he saw it was nice staying with these people. These people are treating him truly like royalty, and he didn't want to leave. So he decided to stay and became king of these people who are the Amamfene kingdom. Now we're left with two brothers, Hlanga and Romo. Now the father, Nqaiko, wanted Hlanga to inherit the throne according to some books. But another book says actually Nqaiko loved all of his sons and he didn't want to name an heir. This one was written by the councilman to the Ndaba Thembu kingdom. I think it's JGC. He wrote it in Rhodes University. I read this article. So he says that Nqaiko didn't want to name an heir because he loved all of his sons. But then the people showed favor to Romo, and then Romo took the throne. Simply took the throne because he was attacked first. We don't know, but propaganda is always everywhere. We need to be careful, because now this is a matter that involves I can say political parties, because there's this person and this other person who will be going into war to claim the throne, and no one wants to be known as the person who the clone didn't belong to. Everyone wants to be the person who the clone belonged to, and the person who was in the right, and not the person who was in the wrong. So political correctness does not start today. It goes back very, very, very far. So Hlanga and Romo, Nqaiko did not name an heir according to that book, and according to another one, Nqaiko had placed Hlanga as the heir. But then Romo wanted the throne, and he tried. He was a very naughty man, according to Bao Boko. He was very, very mischievous and naughty, and he often looked down upon people. And he was sent away from the people, and by his father. He told him, go and look after the cows there by Matanga. I don't know where Matanga is, but I assume it's Enkambini or Emasimini. In nowadays, the place where cows eat, the place where in the Xhosa people's nation, cows don't eat here. They eat somewhere there. It's either called Emasimini or Enkambini or Ndabeni, but they don't eat here. They eat elsewhere, outside, away from the people. So he was sent to Matanga to look after the cows. Now he went with all the cattle, and then he went with all like all the men of the army. I don't know if all the men of the army, but he went with the army, and he stayed with it there by Matanga, looking after the cow. Now in the other book it says Romo had support, and the people, they willingly left with him to go and stay with him because they wanted him to be king. Let's continue. And then what happened was Ngayeko wanted the cows to come back. Both books say Ngayeko wanted the cows to come back, but Romo did not want to bring the cows. Did not want to bring the cows back. And then what happened was Ngayeko and Hlanga, they joined forces in order to punish Romo and left off to go and attack. In that process, Romo was aware of what was happening, and he called his brother Ndungwana from the forest with the Amamvene to come and help him. And Ndungwana attacked from the flank, which is from the behind. I think it's behind the flank, from behind the army of Ngayeko, and then Romo attacked from the front, and they collided in battle, and the war was lost. The war was lost by Ngayeko and Hlanga. Romo won that war, and he took the throne. Now Boko goes on to say that when Romo took the throne, he uttered these words: Ndibuthathile ubukhosi besizwe sabaThembu. Now I do not know the truthfulness of this, because Boko is of the Mngongo clan. I do not know, because there are some interfamilial feuds involved with the Mngongo people and the Romo people. So I do not know the truthfulness of that. I would leave it to you guys. What do you think? Do you think it is true that Romo said Ndibuthathile ubukhosi besizwe sabaThembu? Or maybe he did not. Or maybe he did. What do you think? Tell us in the comments below. So, as Baoboko says, he said, meaning that he took the power from the whole Thembu nation and consolidated it into one house, which is the Romo house. And even today, if you look at the great family, the royal family, everything is done by the royal family. Everything, even councillors, Abapakati are now Romo people. It's no longer people and people and people and people. It's no longer people from other nations becoming councillors of the king. It's people who are close to the family, placed by the family, who become councillors. And also, what's happening is now it's a kumkani. It's not a inkosi. It's a king. It's not a chief. Now a king is born. A king gets born by birth. He has a birthright. But a chief, inkosi, is placed by people. Inkosi iyonyulwa kuba sisoloko sisithi enkosi kuwe. Because we always say thank you to this person. This person will be the right person to lead us. He cares about us. He knows what we need. Let's make him chief of our clan. That's a chief. A king, ikumkani, yazalwa ngegazi. So you get born as a king by simply having the blood of a king. you will get placed at the throne, which is what is happening. This is where Baupoko says the Thembu kingdom changed from having a chief to having a king. Now, Romo took the throne, he became the king, he became a monarch, is what he's saying. So, this is, if we still remember what we're talking about here, this is the Thembu lineage, the theory by Lesotho, Nguti, and Romo, the theory by Baupoko, yeah, if we were to say. But I added in some missing bits and pieces, so this is theory number 1, actually. There are other theories that we'll also discuss, but this is the first theory. So Romo took the throne, he became the heir, he became the king. Now let's look at who Romo gave birth to. Romo gave birth to Hala. Hala gave birth to Madiba. Madiba gave birth to Tato. Tato gave birth to Zondwa. Zondwa gave birth to Ndaba and Clans. It's a peculiar story, the one of Ndaba, because Ndaba, his life is intertwined with the king of the Xhosa people called Gaga. Ndaba, his father Zondwa, had passed before he could name an heir between him and Clans. And his grandfather Tato called for other kings to discuss the matter. They say it was King Gagabe who spoke for Ndaba and said, because Ndaba was known to be a very, very mischievous young boy, and he was very, very naughty. And he said, no, actually, these signs will actually make him a good king, because if he's like that, has a mind like that, he can actually make a good king in the future. So Gagabe spoke for Ndaba. And then Ndaba, he went on to live his life and then married Gagabe's daughter Bede. And then after some time, when he was king, Ndaba, since he was a mischievous person and he was not a good person, the Thembu people did not like him and they wanted to remove him from the throne. And then he ended up going into exile because the people wanted to remove him. So he went into exile with his wife Bede. And then Gagabe felt sorry for him. I don't know how the story goes actually. I don't remember it now. I read it, but he went into exile for some reason, which involved him not being a good leader to the Thembu people. I can't remember what that reason was. He did something. And then when he went into exile, it was King Gagabe who felt sorry for him and decided to say, hey man, come and stay by me. Don't stay there in the wild. Come and stay here by me in my house and bring my daughter with you. So he brought his daughter and went to stay by Gagabe. Gagabe, if you remember, Gagabe spoke for him and made him chief, and Gagabe let him marry his daughter, and now Gagabe is saving him from exile. And then he stayed with Gagabe, and then after some time Gagabe became sick. And when the Amaphakathi of Gagabe tried to find out what was making Gagabe sick, and they went to the diviners, Amagqirha. Amagqirha said, have you ever seen two horns live in one? Have you ever seen two horns without seeing them on one head? Like two horns, in order for them to exist, horns, in order for them to exist, they need to exist on one head. So they're talking about the heads of a cow. So now, the idea behind that was you can't have two kings sharing the same space. So they couldn't have, that's what the diviner was saying, you can't have two kings sharing the same space. Now, Ndaba found out about this somehow and thought they were going to kill him. Since now Gagabe was becoming sick because he was living with him. So he sent word for help. And it is said that Nkanzi, who was Richard at the time because Ndaba was in exile, Nkanzi sent for Fubu of the Consolidation to go and help him and bring him back home. Now they went and bring Ndaba back home and they took him. But when they were taking him to go back home, they also took a lot of cows from Gagabe's nation. a lot of cows. I think it was about 100 or hundreds, in fact, of cows. And they went away with them because they were saying, what is the king going to eat along the way if we don't take cows? And they took the cows and they went with them. And then Khakhabe found this out and he says, hey man, I gave this kid a place to stay. He was in exile, for crying out loud. And look at him now. He's taking away my cows. No, they cannot be. I'm going to war. And then the story says Khakhabe attacked the Thembu nation. Now Ndaba was back at home and he was placed as king again. And now what Ndaba did was he said to them, he didn't say no, give Khakhabe back his cows. He had helped me. He said, no, attack that man. Attack that man. Don't give in. And they attacked Khakhabe and they slayed Khakhabe. Khakhabe lost his life because of Ndaba. This is the peculiar story between Ndaba, the Thembu chief, and Khakhabe, the Thembu king. So, yeah, it's very interesting to see that happen because all his life he was being helped by Khakhabe, but at some point, Khakhabe lost his life because of Ndaba. Hey, it's very hard. But let's continue. Who did Ndaba now give birth to? Ndaba gave birth to Ngubenguka, who's called Vusani. Now, it is said by Bokwe. I am still trying to figure this out and find it out because there is a certain archive document that I am looking for. South Africa has archives. It is called the Native Unrest in Biki. Biki is in Mthatha. There was a native unrest in that area. What was it for? Now, I want to know what that native unrest was for because Bokwe says Ngubenguka did not have any son. Ngubenguka is Ndaba's son. What Ndaba did was Ndaba had some feud with some other guy in an unrelated matter. He had some feud with some other guy, and what he did was he shot that person with the gun because Ndaba was not living in the old days. He was somewhere around 1700, not 1700s, 17 something. Yeah, not century man, yeah. Somewhere around 1790s to the 1810s. Ndaba was alive at those times, so there were guns at those times. This, excuse me. It is said that Ndaba took a gun and he shot a person. And then his Ipagati, his councilman, he knew that he was going to get into trouble. He took the gun and he ran with it. He ran with it to the police station. And when he got into the police station, immediately he said, I have shot someone. Please arrest me. And the policemen, they arrested that Pagati. And then he went into court. And what he said in court was, I was protecting the king. I had to shoot that man because he was attacking the king. And then the judge said, because you were protecting the king, this is a good thing, but please do not do it again. We will destroy this case. You can go home. Simply because you were what? Protecting the king. A noble man of state. And then he went back home. And he went back to the king. And the king was like, hey, you. Hey, you are sly folks. So now you are a devil. Hey, you, I'm giving you a name. You are Umti Okaka. Meaning, you are a potent muti. You are a potent muti is believed is the Kosa Thembu people. They believe muti to have supernatural powers. It's herbs and animals and stuff. You can form muti from burning the bones of an animal and form insizi, or you can form muti by finding a certain tree and taking its roots and using it, or finding the leaves of that tree or whatever, or even any plant. So that's an umuti. Now he said you are an umuti, but not just any umuti. Umuti okaka. If I can interpret it now, he meant he was a very potent form of muti. But if I can translate it, it just means bitter tree. You see, it means a bitter tree. But there's a difference between translating it and interpreting it. You know? So when I'm interpreting it, he was saying he's a very potent form of Muti, because he saved the king from getting into trouble. So actually the king used him as Muti, but he's a very potent form of Muti. So he gave him the name Ngumti Okaka. It's a praise, actually, not a name. Ngumti Okaka. Now what happened was, this man, he was Iparati, he was of the Vusani clan. He was called Umti Okaka. What happened now was, since Ngubengcuka did not have any sons, Mvulane had a son. And his son was taken by Ngubengcuka, and he adopted that son and he made him his son. And then he gave him his father's name, the Mvulane man. He gave him his father's name. He called him Mtikaka. He didn't say Mti Okaka. He called him Mtikaka. This is a claim. It's a theory that is made. I'm not saying this is fact, but this is a theory that is made by some people, including Bauboko. He says that Mtikaka is not a son of the king. He was adopted by Ngubengcuka from the Mvulane man called Mti Okaka, who happened to be the councilman to the king Ndaba. Because Ndaba was a very mischievous man, as I said, was very, very mischievous. So this is still in brand with Ndaba. Okay, let's continue and let's pass this one. So Ngubengcuka, his son was Mtikaka. We do not know whether he was his birth son or was adopted. But all we know is his son was Mtikaka. Mtikaka gave birth to Ngangelizwe. Ngangelizwe gave birth to Jongolizwe. Jongolizwe gave birth to Sabata Dalindyebo. Oh, this king. His story is a very sad one, because I do not even want to touch it, because I am afraid it might backfire on me. Let me skip this one of the Comrade King. Just research about it, Comrade King, here on YouTube, and listen to his story. It's very, very sad. And then Sabata Dalindyebo gave birth to Buelekaya Dalindyebo, who exists today and is living in the Eastern Cape somewhere. Now that wraps it up. That was the story of Abatem. This is theory number 1. This is the first theory I'm making. I'm still going to present to you other theories. Now tell me what you thought about this theory. Do you think it was true? Do you think it was bad? Or there are places where it was true but not really true? Or some places where I've missed something? Tell us in the comments below. Thank you from Nomava. Bye bye.